system is there is one government and there are shadow ministers working in the opposition जो उन scenarios and situations को analyze करते हैं. I have a wonderful guest here. That is Brad REDEKOPP. Is that, did I pronounce right?
Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
Almost there.
Just about perfect.
Yeah, just about.
Okay, you pronounced the right one.
Brad REDEKOPP.
Oh, Brad REDEKOPP.
There you go.
Okay, कॉप मैंने अलग पहले सबक पकाया था, पहले पूरा सबक याद किया था, मुझे कॉप याद आए थे जो टिकट नहीं देते वो वाले. बहरहाल, now the things are, if you look at the numbers and the polls, you can see, and of course our conservative opposition leader, he's working very effectively. As Brad is here in our office today, we will, Brad, first of all, welcome. Thank you for taking time coming on this platform and talking directly to the ethnic community.
Thank you, Arifa. Glad to be here.
It's a great thing. And now Brad जो हैं conservative के साथ हैं, Saskatoon की constituency से हैं, और of course inshallah we will win the next election as well, and we are expecting के conservatives के जो पोल्स नज़र आ रहे हैं, और ज़ाहिर है इस सिस्टम में, कैनेडियन एंड सिस्टम्स में चेंज आया करता होता है. इट नीड्स लिटिल चेंज. Today we would, once you will inherit this government, this system, there are very many issues at the moment. The number one issue is economy. We went through the COVID, then there are so many other problems, and just like in 1918, now we are going through the inflation. What would you do, and do you have any solution to resolve it?
Absolutely. Thanks, Arifa. There are many things that need to be fixed in our government, in our federal government. The Liberal government has made quite a mess. The first thing we're going to do, should we have the ability to do it, is get rid of the carbon tax. The carbon tax is making everything more expensive. Obviously, it makes fuel that we use for our cars and that we use to heat our homes more expensive, but it also then translates into things like grocery prices, because farmers have to pay the carbon tax, and if they have an expense like a carbon tax, they pass that expense on to the consumers. The trucking companies that move the food, they pay carbon tax. The grocers that sell it to us, they have to pay carbon tax. So everywhere along the way, everybody's paying carbon tax. That's causing the cost of everything to increase. Even besides food, if you're buying anything from Amazon, anything you're buying, it's all getting more expensive because of the carbon tax. So we're going to eliminate the carbon tax. It is not working as an effective way to reduce greenhouse gases. It's a tax, and we're just going to get rid of it. That's going to make everything less expensive for Canadians. So that's the first thing. The second thing is our federal budget right now is in a deficit position. This current government has, every single year they've been in power, they have spent more money than they've brought in. In fact, they have doubled the national debt from $600 billion to $1.2 trillion. And did you know that it took 150 years of Canada to build up the first $600 billion of debt? The last 600 has come in 9 years from Justin Trudeau. So it's a shame. We're now paying $54 billion of interest in this year. We can't control that. We have to pay that. That's more money than we spend on healthcare. So we are spending $54 billion on interest when we could be using that money to improve our healthcare and a whole bunch of other things. So the upshot of all of that is inflation. When the government spends more than it brings in, you get inflation. That's also caused the price of things to go up. It's also caused interest rates to go up, which has made it very difficult for people to afford housing. And whether you're renting or owning or trying to buy your first home, if interest rates are high, it makes it very difficult to do that. So these are some of the things that have created problems in Canada. So we can fix that by simply balancing the budget. Will be a very good start at controlling the inflation and starting to bring it back down so that we can get prices to be more affordable. Because that's what's hurting. When I talk to everyday Canadians, that's one of the main things they talk about is the cost of everything.
This is Brad REDEKOPP with me, and he is a member of parliament from Saskatchewan West. Of course, the way things are, when opposition leader was with us, and we have covered it very many times, इट्स अ वेरी इफेक्टिव थिंग कि अगर आप कार्बन टैक्स को निकाल देते हैं तो कार्बन टैक्स को निकालने से आपके ट्रकों का आपकी हर चीज़ सस्ती हो जाएगी, आपकी कीमतें कम हो जाएंगी, बड़ा इफेक्ट आ सकता है. इट डज़ मेक सेंस कि आप पेट्रोल डलवाते हैं तो माजिद भाई क्या रेशो है, अगर आप पेट्रोल डलवाते हैं तो कितना आपका कार्बन टैक्स पे जाता है पैसा, अगर आपने $100 का पेट्रोल डलवाया. आप कभी अपने बिल को एनालाइज करके
No, it's very easy. All the pumps in Ontario, at
Yeah,
least,
they have a graph sitting there.
graph sitting there and tells you how much goes into taxes. Do you have, Brad? Do you have any idea how much it goes into carbon tax?
I think we're paying about 20 cents a liter right now. And
There you go.
the crazy thing is, this government, this Liberal government, wants to quadruple that number. It's going to go up to over 60 cents a liter in the coming years. So it's not finished yet. It's only just begun. It's getting worse every single year. It just went up this past April. On April 1st, it went up another 4 cents, I think.
Yeah, it does make sense. But my question is, when we asked the same question from the Liberals, they said, because it's a commitment in the G7 summit that, to control the carbon, and they are not stopping wars, which is, I think so, one of the reason for the global warming. What would you say? How can you, bypass that?
There's many other solutions, and our view is to use technology. So I'll give you an example. We can replace coal-fired power plants in our country with nuclear power plants. Nuclear power plants don't put out any greenhouse gases. That's a technological answer to the problem, and an even better option here, from the world's perspective. If you go to a country like China, China is still, right today, they're still building brand new coal-fired power plants. Coal-fired power plants are the worst kind of plants when it comes to
And
greenhouse
India.
gases. Yes, but China, because they have such demand for power, they're still building them even today. We could solve that problem with natural gas. Canada has abundant natural gas. We could ship natural gas to China. They could build, instead of a coal-fired plant, a natural gas-fired plant, which reduces emissions significantly from coal.
So it
it
is
doesn't reduce it to zero,
Yeah.
but it reduces it significantly. And it's a technology that's available right now, and it would benefit China, obviously. It would benefit the world from having fewer greenhouse gases. And guess what? It benefits Canada, because now we can produce natural
Export.
gas. We can sell it, we can export it. It creates revenue, it creates industry, it creates jobs, it creates taxes. It's a win-win across the board. But countries have come to Canada asking for it. I mean, just recently we had another European country come to us and ask us can we sell them natural gas. And you know what the government says? No.
Why?
We don't, because they philosophically disagree with developing our natural resources in Canada. So they say when Germany came specifically and said, we would like natural gas. Their reason was they wanted to stop buying it from Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
And Trudeau said, there's no business case for that, which is completely false. There's an absolute business case. And here's the funny part. The way that you ship natural gas is you cool it down. It becomes a liquid. You can put it in a ship. You can take it across the ocean. What do we have besides lots of natural gas? We have cold weather. So it's actually very easy for us to cool natural gas down. It doesn't cost us much money. We can do it in British Columbia with electricity created by hydroelectricity, which is completely carbon free. It makes so much sense across the board, but not to this current Liberal government.
That is one. But think about it, look at it, and everything is doable. Everything is doable. जिसमें मेरी और आपकी पॉकेट पे भी उतना बोझ नहीं होगा, इन्फ्लेशन भी कंट्रोल हो सकती है. So many good things. That right, Majid?
Yeah, you got it.
And I remember from the day one COVID-19 के बाद, the only thing what we were saying is कि ये जो आपका जो कार्बन टैक्स है ना, इसको ख़त्म होना चाहिए. अगर कार्बन टैक्स ख़त्म नहीं होगा तो ग्रोसरी की प्राइसेस भी कम नहीं आएंगी. नथिंग. You brought something about the housing as well. Housing was also a big issue, and I believe When a first time home buyer buys, if he has 20%, he has a better opportunity to get the mortgages. He can, bypass the CMHC fee as well. But nowadays people don't have that much money, the income is not that much, and the price of the houses, if everything is gone to minimum $1 million, from where they should bring the money? Do you have any solution for affordable housing?
Move to Saskatoon. We have lots of less expensive houses in Saskatoon. But seriously, for housing in Canada has more than doubled since Trudeau's been in power. The cost of rent has more than doubled, and the money you need for down payment has gone way up. And of course, with high interest rates, it's very expensive to purchase and own a house. So the issue that we have in Canada is there's lots of demand, but we don't have enough supply. There are not enough houses for people to live in, and there's more people looking to buy a house than there are to sell. So what we have to do is stimulate supply of housing, because if we get supply and demand works that way. If we have a higher supply, it will start putting downward pressure on prices and keep them lower. And so we have a very simple plan. Cities like Toronto, they all get money from the federal government every year. And so what we are proposing is the 15% plan, which means that every year a city will have to show that it has permitted 15% more houses than the year before. If they do 15%, they will get their money from the federal government. If they exceed that, if they permit more than 15%, they'll get more money. If they don't hit 15%, if they get less than 15%, they'll get less money. So it's a very simple carrot process, the carrot and stick idea, like a reward. If you do what we ask and exceed, you will benefit from it. If you don't do what we ask, you'll be penalized for it. We don't want to prescribe to cities how they achieve this goal, but we do want to give them the incentive to actually achieve the goal and get our house building up. There are tremendous delays. It takes years for a new housing development to happen, and it is very it's very bad for the whole process. Everything gets more expensive when all these delays happen, and these are from bureaucratic delays, from gatekeepers in cities. It shouldn't take 3 or 4 years to get a permit to do a development. It shouldn't take 6 months to get a permit to build a house. And so these are things that the cities can figure out how to get past, but we need to increase the number of permits that are being built, and so that we can therefore increase the number of housing units being built.
This is Brad REDEKOPP. Brad, let me tell you one thing. People in Toronto are warm-hearted, they have love, everybody want to settle
Not
in.
more than Saskatoons.
No. That is the reason. Nobody wants to go to Saskatoon. Everybody want to settle. That is the reason houses are.
Saskatoon
We have.
is a beautiful place.
Thank you.
It is a beautiful, no doubt about it. Did I say it's not beautiful? All Canada is beautiful. But you know what? There's more love in Toronto. Huh?
We have a lot of love in Saskatoon too. Come on, we're loving people.
And, my question over here is, as you said, the rent prices are gone up. So this is not the landlord's fault. If the mortgage rates are gone up, so how the landlord should pay the mortgage?
Well, it's the same thing. Whether you rent or own, it's being impacted by the same exact issues. Number one, interest rates are high, and that's because of the borrowing that I talked about from the federal government, and also the lack of supply. And so the lack of supply means that there's fewer rental places, which prices go up. That's the way it works. When there's a lack of supply and too much demand, that drives prices up. And so that's why we have to focus on not just on building new houses that people can buy, but also building new rental units that people can rent. All the types of housing that we have in Canada, they all need to grow up and increase. And that's why we want cities to build more houses, build more rental units, build more condos. All of these things need to be built.
When we talk about अगर हम Ontario की बात करते हैं, it's a great place. मेरा ख्याल है we build more than 15% houses there. One subject is, Majid, I know I must have one question, but one question and one concern is very close to my heart, and we are working on that these days. When we talk about immigration, okay, people are coming from around the world. If you look at the students in the universities, people and students are coming from around the world. And it's just a coincidence, my whole program today is talking to machine versus talking to a human being. Our first subject, second subject, and now this is the third subject. Once people from anywhere around the world, they apply, the students apply, human beings looked at the application and they approve depending upon whatever is required. But once people and students from Pakistan, they apply for immigration, for student visa, the applications are processed by machines. This means one of the finest project, artificial intelligence. And machine does what machine is taught about. They reject. And the universities, they don't want to invest on some system or somewhere, because one student rejected once is rejected forever. Why Pakistan is not equally treated, and why their students and their visas and visitor visas are not processed by human beings?
It's a very, very interesting question. A few months ago at our immigration committee in Ottawa, of which I'm the vice chair, we actually studied the issue of racism, because I think that's fundamentally what we're talking about here.
Yes.
is racism. And so there's widespread agreement that there is racism in IRCC, the Immigration Department, and they would tell you that they've been doing a lot of work to try to improve, eliminate racism and that sort of thing. But it's clear that there is racism, particularly in some of the overseas offices when people look at applications from different countries. Added to that, now they have begun to use automated methods of processing applications, as you say, AI. And so what happens is, and the difficulty is that sometimes the racial biases that are in people end up in the AI, because it's people ultimately that design the AI. And so whatever racial biases were there originally get put into the system and become automated. And so then everything that goes through is then racialized that way. And so the department has admitted this is a problem. It is a problem. I can't speak specifically to the Pakistan issue that you raised, but there's no doubt there are issues in the system, and it's one of the things that needs to be cleaned up and fixed within the IRCC.
But are you aware that in Pakistan the system is processed, or applications are processed by AI?
I believe many different application types are processed by AI, especially on the initial look at them, yes. Yeah.
And I hope we can work with, this is all what it is, if those who are legitimate and those who deserve and those who can afford the education abroad, they must get a chance to get a higher education over here. Do you have any question?
I do, but I was 5 minutes ago I was told you only have 1 minute.
Let's do one last quick one. One last quick question.
I don't want. This is very close to me, because I had 2 brand new cars were stolen. If your government comes up, what do you think that a solution you have?
That's a great question. Crime is a big problem in Canada right now. The car theft issue, it's up 300% in Toronto. We heard that CBSA, that's the department that's responsible for exports, they check very few containers in Montreal as they're headed out overseas. And in Halifax, we just found out this past week, they don't even scan containers in Halifax. And the CBSA was asked how many vehicles they've intercepted being exported out of the country. The answer was 0. They've found 0 in the last 5 years because they don't look. So CBSA is a big issue we need to solve, we need to fix, and we have a plan to buy more scanners and add more people to the ports to actually catch them going out. But what we need to do even more than that, more important than that, is we need to bring some common sense back to our criminal justice system. The Liberals have changed the laws so that if you are convicted of a crime, you're very likely to get out on bail. Mm-hmm. And to get to jail is actually very difficult these days. And so they have given judges directives to put people out on bail for many, many reasons. And so what's happened in our system then is we have a revolving door. We have a crime is committed, they're arrested, they're charged, they're released. They commit another crime, they're arrested, they're charged, they're released. It just goes around and around and around, and people never go to jail. And so there's no disincentive to commit a crime. And gangs are taking advantage of this because they'll go to a young person who might be struggling to pay their bills or pay their rent and say, I need you to go steal a car. Don't worry, you'll never go to jail. Don't worry, you'll be fine. And so that entices young people into the criminal lifestyle because there's no consequences. So Conservatives have a plan. We will bring back tougher sentences and jail time for repeat offenders in particular. We need to make sure that there are consequences for crimes. At the same time, a lot of crime comes because of drug use. And so we need to be sensitive to that, and we are committed to providing treatment centers for people who have drug addiction problems. Unlike the current Liberal government, their plan right now, if you notice in British Columbia, is they're allowing hard drugs to be decriminalized, which means you can be in a park with your children on a park bench, and right beside you can be a drug addict who is shooting up with drugs, and it's perfectly legal. You can be in a hospital getting care, and in the hospital is another person doing drugs right there in the hospital, and this is legal according to our federal Liberal government. So that's not something that we would do. We would reverse that, and instead we would put in treatment centers to help people get off of drugs, because we don't believe that criminals should be given free drugs by the federal government.
Good.
जनाब ब्रैड रेडिकॉप हमारे साथ हैं और सस्कैचुअन से कंजर्वेटिव को मेंबर पार्लियामेंट हैं. बहुत अच्छा लगा. I remember once upon a time it was Prime Minister Harper's time, and Jason Kenney used to come here more often. It is not that we need somebody be here. We just want to bridge community with you, and I thank you very much that sir you came, and I hope you will visit more often so that we can bring in issues in your notice and things can be addressed. Thank you very kindly. And now there's a young man here. He's going to bring something over here. So I'll let you go. Thank you.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I wish you can
Appreciate
come
it.
more often.
I will do my best.
Okay. Thank you very kindly.